Green Party leader Annamie Paul is no longer facing a non-confidence vote, but there are still a lot of questions about what's really going on in the Green Party and whether it can move forward with an election looming. To answer some of those, Annamie Paul joins me now from Toronto. Ms. Paul, thank you for taking the time on what I know has been a big day for you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So you're no longer facing a non-confidence vote. The your membership review has also been suspended. How did these things suddenly go away?
I don't think anyone following the situation would have said suddenly. What I said in the press conference today is that unfortunately I can't share all of the details, but I will say that it was very important to me to do what I could as the leader of the party to ensure that we were focusing our attention where it needed to be, and that's the next election, which I certainly hope won't be in August, but it seems like it might be. And so I wanted to make sure that we had as much certainty as we could for our candidates and our volunteers heading into that.
But, Ms. Paul, we were getting ready to cover a leadership review vote tomorrow, and then we got news on Sunday afternoon. Our colleague David Thurton broke the news that it was all canceled, and we've not yet gotten an explanation as to why. I mean, don't Green Party members and potential Green Party voters deserve an explanation as to how this has gotten resolved?
Well, the key thing is that it has been resolved, and even as you said it, I thought, isn't that great news? The key thing is that it has been that this federal council, the current federal council, which will which many of the councillors will have their terms expiring next month, they will not be reviewing any confidence motions. There will be no new ones put forward. I think that gives us the stability and the certainty that we need to do what we need to be doing now, which is getting ready for the next election and supporting our candidates and our volunteers.
You say you won't get into what happened behind closed doors to bring this resolution. You said this multiple times at your news conference today. Is that a personal choice, or is there a legal agreement here that requires people to stay silent about what happened?
I respect the ingenuity of your question, but I will say that I'm providing all of the information and details that I can. I'm not at all seeking to obfuscate or to dance around anything. We have suspended the motions have been suspended. There will not be any new ones, and I hope that is a permanent state of affairs. But right now, I'm focusing on what comes across the next month. We have a new council coming in August. It's a brand new day, and the focus has got to be not only on the next election, but also on the issues, on the climate, on social policy. I'm really excited to get back to talking about the issues that matter to people in Canada.
But Ms. Paul, several sources tell CBC News that there were lawyers involved with this. There was an internal arbitration process, and that is what led to this resolution. Can you confirm that there was an arbitration process and legal action involved in this?
So I feel like I've been on the show often enough so that you know that for me it's really a matter of pride and principle, that I do not leak, that I do not say indirectly what cannot be said directly. And so anything that I could share, I have shared, and I can't comment on any unnamed sources.
But I guess what I'm struggling to understand, and I appreciate that you have been on the show enough and I have to ask the questions, is whether this is simply by choice or is this a requirement? Like, is there a gag order of some sort in effect here that stops people from knowing exactly what has happened at the highest levels of your party?
And you're right, you do have to ask the question, but unfortunately my answer cannot change. As I said, the important news for people in our party, first and foremost today, our candidates and our members and our very hardworking volunteers, is that we have stability and we have certainty and clarity for at least the foreseeable future, and that we have what we need now to do what we need to be doing, which is getting ready for the next election and talking about the policies that matter. I want to finally be asked a question about the heat wave out west, about the sudden deaths that happened, about the forest fires that are still raging, about the opioid poisonings that are still happening every day. I'm hoping that we can focus on those things going forward.
And I think going forward we will, but today is still a day where this news is developing, and I need to ask you about this. I mean, you called this a one-sided campaign to end your leadership. Who specifically was on that side? Because your answer today about your relationship with Elizabeth May has a lot of people wondering if you're pointing fingers at Miss May
as being part of the anti-Annamie Paul camp? I did no such thing.
No, but the point are interpreting it that way.
I did. Well, that's, I mean, I congratulate, that whoever's come to that conclusion for their creativity. But what I said is that, I missed you. And it's been about 3 weeks since I've done any interviews with the press gallery or the national press at a time when really we should be out there talking, being the leaders, talking about the climate, talking about progressive policies. And I deliberately did that in order to not enter into any kind of a feud or infighting. That's extremely unhelpful. And I'm really only here to be the top cheerleader for our party. And so any characterization of feuding over the last few weeks has to be one-sided, because I have had nothing to say other than focusing on policies whenever I've had the opportunity to do so.
No, and look, and Ms. Paul, I will give you full credit. You have, I know it's been a few weeks, but you have come on this show, you have answered these questions, and the other side of this, the various people in your party have systematically declined or refused every opportunity to come on and tell us their version of what is happening in the party. So I do want to thank you for having the courage to come on and deal with this while others have not. But I have to ask, what is the relationship with you and the elected wing of your party right now? Because we have tried to get Elizabeth May to come on and say whether she supports you and how she feels about things, and she has declined. We've tried to get Paul Manley to come on. We've tried to get members of the National Council to come on. And even though the leadership review and the membership review may be moved aside, it still feels like there's a lot of problems in your party right now.
Well, I mean, we're trying to do things differently as a party. And so I think that's part of the answer that you have. I mean, as I said today, I have no interest in sending any messages to anyone in my party via the media. If I have something that I want to say to whether it's members of our caucus or the members of our council, I do that directly. And I think that is our way. It's so important to try to change some of the worst elements of politics. And I think that leaking and speaking on background probably fall into the top tier of that category. And so in terms of Paul Manley, his attention is where it should be. It should be on winning his seat. And I was very grateful the other day in his local newspaper when he said that he was supporting me, that he had donated to my campaign. Every dollar counts. And so Paul has been very clear that he supports me. And in the case of Ms. May, she's been through surgery. I'm sure that when she has the opportunity, she will share her full support. And I have no reason to believe that she doesn't support me completely. And she's very welcome to come on your show to say so anytime.
No, and we have a standing invitation. Believe me, it's been made repeatedly. I know you say you don't want to send messages to members of your party or to the media by speaking on background or through leaks, but what about through lawyers? Because there's been reports that you sent a cease and desist letter to a member of the National Council. I mean, did you do that? What was the intention of the letter, and will you be following up with other legal action?
Well, again, and not to be contrary at all, but what you're describing sounds very internal and very much like internal party business to me. So I think that it's best not to focus on that today. I think the focus, as you said today, and rightly so, is on the good news about the suspension of the non-confidence motion, the suspension of any future ones by this current council, and the possibility that we have now to focus on the policies that matter, to talk about the climate when people in Canada care about it the most. It's the thing that they care the most about right now, and to be able to talk about how we're going to get more Greens elected so they can have an impact in changing policy in that area and in many other areas as well.
You talk about getting more Greens elected. What about getting you elected? Because one of the things you said today is you don't have the tools you would like to have as a leader. Your staff was laid off. They're not rehired, however this compromise was reached. And until now, you say that you've had no funds transferred to your Toronto Centre campaign from the Central Party. I mean, do you have what you need? Are you getting what you need from the party to mount a campaign worthy of a national leader?
That's it's an excellent question, and I have to say, after being there today with the volunteers and the candidates who came out for the press conference at last minute notice, and of course on a work day, I feel like I have so much. I feel like our membership is very supportive. I know that all across the country, our volunteers, our EDAs, our candidates really want us to kick it into high gear now for the next election. Certainly, all of the tools that you mentioned would be welcome, and I sincerely hope that they will be extended to me as soon as possible. But support comes from many different places, and I have lots of it. I feel very blessed, and it's very bountiful today for me.
So, Ms. Paul, I guess a final point before I let you go. Do you think this is over, or have you just kind of hit the snooze button on this challenge, and it's something that you'll have to deal with when this election campaign reaches its end?
I would say that the answer is partially up to others. I mean, certainly for me, as always, and from the beginning of all of this, I mean, as you can imagine, I didn't bring the motion against myself. My focus is on the next election. It's on supporting our brand new shadow cabinet, supporting our candidates. And I hope that today is a day when those who have had a different, let's say, a different focus, that they decide that that's where their focus should be too. And if it's really on getting more Greens elected in the next for the next Parliament, then all of this will certainly be set aside. And David, remember, there is an automatic leadership review that happens after every federal election for our party and for the others. So our members will have the say that they deserve, and they'll have it probably pretty soon.
Okay. Annamie Paul, thanks so much. I always appreciate your willingness to come on Power and Politics. Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.